family are dead, you hear me?
For all I know, they're dead already.
Jack!
Put the money back or I'll put a bullet through her head.
Coming into a picture that's already has been started and then stopped, and the dynamic was difficult, and the script was... We weren't quite happy with it, were we? And you had some, lots of ideas.
We weren't all happy with it at any one time. Some of us were happy enough to start shooting.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
true.
We found out the studio wasn't so happy with what we had wrought. And we overcame that resistance and then started shooting.
Well,
I think the main issue was articulating the plot and the mechanism by which the money was to be stolen. And there were a lot of options. We had to find an option that not only made relative sense to people in the banking community and had the smack of truth to it, but it had to be observable.
Sure.
It had to be visually interesting. And Richard came up with the idea of cobbling together a scanner tube and an iPod and various other things that were laying around the character's house in order to accomplish what needed to be accomplished.
You didn't like too much bits and pieces, did you? Was it Mr. McGovern, you called it?
MacGyver is a very popular television series. What I didn't want to do was to have it get to be too complicated for the audience to understand. And
you're right. You have the right balance.
Whatever balance we obtained was out of to the death struggle between us, which is probably not a bad thing if the film turns out all right and nobody dies.
No, that's true.
Nobody died, and the film turned out okay, so it's probably worth going through all of that nonsense.
Yeah, it was. All today we've been doing press today, and there's been the questions they say. So, what is it like working with Harrison Ford? Is he? And I always say you're demanding in terms of you won't do anything unless you know why you're doing it.
I think the reason I don't do it if I don't believe in it is because then I can't make the audience believe in it.
Absolutely not.
And it really comes down to
that's why. Sorry.
Making each moment work.
Yeah, to act well, you've got to believe in what you're saying and the dialogue and everything else.
Well, don't you have to obtain the same belief to direct a film?
Oh, yeah.
To know where to put the camera and how long to take with something and what tempo and energy should be obtained.
I guess so.
And how the character should define, particularly attend to the intention of the scene.
I never think about it.
Oh, shit.
It's so much. I don't really. I suppose it's the doing. You just got to turn up in the morning, and you've got to do so much stuff.
I'm reading a book called Blink, which is about the battle between the conscious and unconscious mind, and how the real critical information that we use to chart our path through life is that supplied by the subconscious in instinctive snap judgments. But these visceral choices are pretty instinctive.
And someone asked me today about what scenes you like best in the movie. Which ones did you like best? Which of the films? Never forget whether you're in them or not.
Clearly, one of the most important scenes is the moment of the home invasion, because it begins the beat of the drum that sustains the rest of the film.
I'm so sorry to make you...
One of the acting problems of this film, and the thing we constantly referenced, was how do you keep in a character a degree of tension sufficient to acknowledge the reality of the situation he and his family are in, and for the length of time that it takes to finish the story and make it varied and interested.
It was hard enough to do it with your character, but what really bothered me and worried me, I think by sleight of hand you don't think about it in the movie when you watch it, but it's the children. How does an 8-year-old child behave and a 13-year-old child behave when they're kidnapped, when they've seen their father beaten up? We do some frightening gear shifts with that child's personality.
I think the truth about children is they can't sustain the tension. They can blank out reality in a way that we cannot. The other thing that's a balancing act in this film is to try and avoid the child in danger syndrome, where the people that are watching it feel that they have been manipulated because you've done something so horrible to a child, and they naturally react to it, but they hold you responsible for putting them in the position of having to observe it.
Absolutely.
So there's got to be a good story reason to go there. I think the character that Virginia played was very important because she gave comfort to those children, and her reaction to the situation was very important to how they behaved.
Come on. Are you all right? Okay, you're okay. Don't you ever touch my children again. Do you hear me?
One of the more interesting situations was the fight scene at the end of the movie. We'd never been able to write it down because we didn't have a set.
No.
And we didn't have a set because we hadn't figured out the fight.
Chicken and egg.
We had neither a chicken nor an egg.
No.
But I had an idea of what I thought would make a good fight, and we all talked about it, and so we built a set to accommodate the action. We put a second floor on it so that we had a way of getting from one place to another. We could use a stairfall, and we didn't do an ordinary stairfall. We left off one side of the railing so that you could go off the edge, and I had them put the sill at the right height for my hip so that I could hinge over it. But at the same time, we're doing all this work, and back at the studio, they're saying, "Where's the fight scene? What's going to happen at the end?" And we said, "Well, we're working on it." And next thing we know, there are two people from the studio who've come up to have us describe to them the fight scene. They were quite concerned. Quite concerned.
But you
very,
put them
very,
at their ease, didn't you?
I didn't put them at their ease. I scared the shit out of them.
Exactly. You did. But the one time I did shut up a bit was the fight scene, because I wasn't going to tell you how to do a fight scene. And it was, just a minute, it was, you really did, you did create that fight scene, and it was great to watch you doing it. Is that how fight scenes normally worked out, the way we did it?
If you'd done a lot of action